Shikamaru's plan to stop the Shinjus could lead to Boruto's demise. This stems from the fact that when Boruto questioned Kashin Koji about their chance at failure, Koji said that it's not that high, which in a sense means that it's very likely. We then got Boruto's 7th death flag, with Koji saying that no matter what happens, Boruto shouldn't intervene. Just like with Himawari leaving the village, if you were to take part in this battle, Jura would make a move, and if that happens, you will die this time. So this means that if Boruto attempts to assist his friends, this will lead to his death. But if anyone knows Boruto's character, it is obvious that he would sacrifice his own life to save that of his friends. So Boruto's continued existence fully depends on whether this plan can succeed without his help, which then leads us back to Shikamaru. You see, this plan of Shikamaru's is an interesting one to say the least. The gist of the mission, as Konohamaru puts it, is to subdue the divine trees and collect their thorn soul bulbs. Though due to the immense power of the Shinjus, that would prove to be a tad bit difficult, so there is another layer to this plan. You see, as Shikamaru stated in chapter 17, naturally we have no choice but to consider the Shinjus as foes and confront them. Yet at the same time, this antagonistic relationship is somewhat relative. There's no conclusive evidence that suggests that these divine trees are intrinsically evil. They seem to be similar to newborn offsprings of wild beasts, so I don't think they have true evil intent, at least for the time being. They're mainly animals that react on instinct, but because they have dangerous strength, they pose a great threat to us as humans. Now Konohamaru then questions where he's going with this, and Shikamaru then says, "Friends, Konohamaru, become friends with them, win them over and tame them, while these wild beasts are still innocent cubblings, and that's when you should betray them. So in a sense, get them to drop their guards so you can kill them." Now Shikamaru is really delving into his Danzo quiver, emulating what it means to be truly deceptive and heartless. He even points this out in the chapter itself, saying that Naruto probably wouldn't take this route, but I'm not him. I propose this tactic to get rid of these superhuman monsters for the survival of mankind. Now many have different viewpoints on this statement, but to me this implies that this plan will definitely fail. You see, this goes back to a few key points in the chapter as well, where Sarada seems to be distracted by the conversation she had with Sumire, which multiple characters take notice of. Mind you, this is the second time this was hinted at, since in the prior chapter it was Mitsuki that first took notice, with Sarada also dismissed, saying that she was fine. Yet she was once again lost in thought just a few moments later. Now, when an author does this, it's typically used to set up that character not being at their best in whatever goal they're trying to accomplish, which of course in this case is the current mission. The same goes for Yodo as well, where she seems to be a tad bit agitated, to the point where her teammate is begging her not to do anything reckless. They even get into an argument over it, which led into a shouting match, and even a few pages after this, we see that she's still in this agitated state, which Araya again takes notice of. So Stevie Wonder could see what's about to happen. Either Sarada or Yodo will jeopardize the mission in some way, likely leading to the death of Araya. Now this is even bigger than these guys, because the main problem with the mission is the mission itself. You see, people tend to have different opinions on what type of person the Hokage should be, which this chapter also hinted at with Shikamaru's comment about Naruto. It also somewhat implies that Shikamaru's plan will fail due to how he chose to address the situation as opposed to how Naruto would. You see, if it is the case that the Shinjus are indeed wild beast cubs that possess no evil intent and one can tame them, why does he need to betray them? Mind you, we know this to be true based on the fact that it wasn't their initial instinct to attack anyone aside from their Suzuki, which is the base instinct of the Tentals. Ironically, Jura is the one who led them in that direction and caused them to see the person they felt a deep connection with as someone they needed to consume. Even still, Matsuri chose not to act on that directive, which shows that they have autonomy. So the goal should be to convince them, not betray them, which could lead to retaliation from not just them, but Jura as well. The guy Koji claimed they don't have a 1 in a million chance of beating. So the plan seems a bit half-baked. It relies on the Shinjus deciding not to instantly summon Jura through the climax, or Hidari not showing up to consume his target once again. In my opinion, a better plan would have been to befriend them and turn them against Jura. At least that way you can have more powerful individuals to fight against the person you don't have a chance of beating. If it was the case that Jura by himself was beatable, then this plan would be perfect, but we've already established that no one can beat him, specifically not Damon or Boruto. Though even so, these are the bumblings of someone who doesn't have the ability to see the future. A lot of people miss this, but Shikamaru didn't form this plan by himself. As he stated in chapter 17, the intel itself is solid, which means that he's working off information he was given. It is then later confirmed that he got this intel from Kashin Koji, based on the panel showing Koji's frog sitting on his shoulders. Now one could argue that this doesn't mean that Koji helped him to form the plan itself. It could be the case that he just told him about what happened in the future, and Shikamaru created the plan based on that information. The issue with this is that this would make the plan even worse, because this would imply that Shikamaru went ahead with this plan without any verification from Koji that this route leads to the best possible future, which doesn't involve this plan failing. And I'm saying this as if Koji can guarantee a positive outcome when we know that isn't true. Koji himself explained in a prior chapter that the more people know the future, the more the nature of that future changes. So once you know the future, you can no longer act the same as before you knew it. Instead, it will branch in complex ways, making it even more difficult to predict, to the point of negating the advantage of foreseeing the future using prescience. So pretty much nothing Koji says about the future events can be taken as gospel, because the futures he can see constantly changes because he can see them. That is why I couldn't guarantee that the plan will succeed when Boruto questioned him. He simply doesn't know. So we can't then use the fact that Shikamaru is working with Koji as a basis to say that what Shikamaru does is the best decision, because even Koji himself is trying to craft a future that doesn't exist as yet. Though knowing Shikamaru as a character, he likely went along with this because it's in his nature to make impulsive decisions that can come across as a bit cold. We saw this back in Shikamaru Shinden, where he pretty much allowed Shojoji to kidnap Tento, the feudal lord's son, so that he could gain favor with the feudal lords after having Boruto rescue him. Naruto had to confront him about having intel on the kidnapping, yet allowing it to happen. What if Shojoji killed the feudal lord's son and they later find out that the Leaf village had intel on it and allowed it to happen? That would have led to war, as the feudal lord pretty much bankrolls the village. So not only would the villagers suffer due to lack of resources and funding, an actual war could have broken out and would have destroyed the peace they created. Naruto had to explain this to Shikamaru and rein him in, because his risk analysis of the situation was completely skewed. We even saw this when he attacked the 5 Kages and threatened to kill Koretsuchi and Chojuro in order to prevent them from going to war. And even though he did it for a good reason, he didn't stop to think about the fallout from the incident, which would have still led to war. Well, that is if the feudal lords decided not to be bullied by the Leaf. Not to mention the hatred the act would stir up for the Leaf from its surrounding neighbors. So if Naruto wasn't there to stop him, the world would have looked much different. Mind you, this issue with Shikamaru also played out in the Kawaki situation as well. He objected to Naruto taking Kawaki in, saying that he must be a spy, and that he should also be confined somewhere outside of the village. But Naruto remembered being in a somewhat similar situation as well, where the third Hokage was likely tasked with protecting everyone from him as well, due to being a Jinchuriki. So he has no problem looking after Kawaki for the time being. And don't get me wrong, Shikamaru was making logical points here, but he lacks the balance between being too ruthless and compassionate. He sees everything as numbers and equations. He doesn't know how to sympathize or empathize, which of course is a core tenet one needs to be a proper Hokage for the people. So if Shikamaru was in Naruto's position, he would have locked away Kawaki in some off-site facility, which means that Jigen would have easily retrieved him by using his karma seal. If Naruto had listened to Shikamaru, he wouldn't have developed the relationship he did with Kawaki, which is what led to him going to Jigen's dimension to rescue him. Kawaki also wouldn't have faced his greatest fear to save Naruto in the fight versus Ishiki. To him, the world is worth saving because Naruto is in it, and that's due to the bond Naruto created due to his efforts. Now some like to counter this by saying that it wasn't the right decision because that bond led to the obsession that drove Kawaki to seal Naruto away, which is true. But it also doesn't negate the fact that the world still exists for that to happen because of Naruto's decision to take Kawaki in. Both things can be true at the same time. So the best future stems from the route Naruto took, while Shikamaru's idea would have led to the destruction of the planet and the Shiki's resurrection. This kind of hard-boiled way of thinking is indeed the opposite of how Naruto approaches issues, as implied by the chapter. To the point where even faced with the reality of Kawaki killing his own son, Naruto chooses not to lash out at Kawaki even though Shikamaru is goading him into doing so. He chooses to understand that he did it to protect him, to protect them. Contrast this with Shikamaru's reaction to Amado placing the bomb around Shikadai's neck. He easily lashes out and is also easily provoked into bouts of anger, which puts his own son's life in jeopardy. Though we have seen bouts of genius as he did with the plan to cohabitate Ada, which is ironically similar to Naruto's plan to cohabitate Kawaki. He understands that it is best to have these powerful entities as allies instead of enemies, which is what he should have done with the Shinju. Though I do find it interesting to some degree that no one says anything about this plan, even though it led to Ada casting omnipotence, which is pretty much what destroyed Boruto's life, even though we like to reevaluate Kawaki being close to Naruto based on something that happened 2 storylines later. The point of all this is to say that I don't think Shikamaru really has the emotional depth or maturity needed to be a great Hokage. His skills are best applied at being the advisor or a military commander. The position of Hokage, especially in a time of peace, needs someone a bit more level-headed and balanced, not too soft or too rough, a little in between. I don't see Shikamaru being able to inspire the youth or maintain diplomacy. I mean, you can somewhat see this in how he addresses the elders, interacts with the other Kages, and even his own shinobi. If he were to remain the Hokage, he needs someone to balance out his urges. He needs someone that can challenge him, like Naruto did Tsunade, Tobirama did Hashirama, or like he did Naruto. Konoha, unfortunately, isn't that guy, as we've seen in the recent chapter. I mean, there is a reason why Sarada said what she said in chapter 1. The idea of what it means to be a Kage that she aspires to is Naruto Uzumaki, not Shikamaru. So I think the story agrees with me, okay? Though not too much on my boy Shikamaru, okay? I wanted to add this part in the video about the Naruto versus Shikamaru Kage debate that's been going on for the longest time, and I wasn't gonna make a video dedicated to that, so I just squeezed it into this one. So hopefully that's fine with you guys. But the point I'm trying to make here is that people have this skewed view of Naruto as the Hokage where they believe that Naruto is too soft and Shikamaru does everything and Naruto really doesn't do anything and all that stuff, which is the furthest from the truth. Naruto knows how to adjust to situations. He understands the concept of time and place, which is why the Otsutsuki's, when they come, he doesn't do the talking shit, okay? It's just straight hands every time. But when a situation calls for it, he also knows when to show compassion and be able to reason with people. And Shikamaru so far just doesn't seem to have that ability to do so, or it's just lacking, to be honest. But look, if you guys disagree with me and you guys have any evidence to suggest otherwise, we can have a conversation in the comments, and maybe I'll stream tomorrow and then we can talk about it, and or maybe you can join the Discord, who knows. But it's an interesting conversation, but I just think what I think, and that's pretty much it. That's it guys, let me know your thoughts down below. Drop a like if you like the video, subscribe to me, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.